played a round of golf where you feel like you're hitting your driver great, but your irons suck? Or you're hitting your irons great and your driver is terrible? The reason is because there is differences between your driver and your irons. And in this video, I want to help you learn how to maximize the efficiency of the big boy, the big dog, the driver, so that you're hitting it farther, hitting it straighter, and having more fun. Now, in drivers, there is some fundamental difference between the setup between drivers and irons. So with your driver, the first thing is we need to ensure that you have a solid base in your setup. So with your setup, I want your setup with your feet to be about shoulder width apart. Now, second thing is we want to have the ball position underneath our lead armpit or inside heel of our left foot. And the reason is because we are essentially trying to have our club hit it from the inside and hit up on it. If we can do that, we're gonna maximize the efficiency of the driver, so we can go far and go straight and you can hit more fairways and have more fun. And there is a massive, massive correlation between hitting a driver over 250 yards and the impact that has on your handicap. So, we need to have a solid base with our stance about shoulder width apart. We want to have our ball position underneath our lead foot, our lead heel underneath our armpit. And then the third thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have enough tilt away from the target. So think about like every sport. You think about like a football player. If they were to throw a pass, they would have tilt. If you're a pitcher, they have tilt, right? If you're serving tennis, they have tilt. So tilt is a part of all sports, and it's no different than when hitting drivers. So when we're setting up, we want to have tilt away from the target. To make sure that you have the right amount of tilt, I want you to take your trail arm, put it on the side of your leg, and then run it down to your knee. This ensures that you have the right amount of tilt away from the target, so that as you take it back, you're just going to maintain that tilt as you do, so you can basically have a better opportunity to feel like you're hitting it from the inside and hitting it up on the driver, right? Now, the fourth and final piece to this is that as we get in our setup with our stance at shoulder width apart, ball underneath lead armpit, a little bit of tilt away, then finally, as we take it up to the top, I want you to feel basically a play right out of Jack Nicklaus's playbook, is I want you to feel like you are letting your arms come down and having your back to the target as long as you can. What that does is ensures that the club is coming down from the inside, because what you do when hitting drivers is you try to hit it really hard with your shoulders, and when you do that, the club comes over the top and you hit a big old nasty slice. But if you can let that back stay to the target as long as you can, that club's gonna come down from the inside and you have your tilt. Now you can hit up on it and hit these nice stock draws, just like this. So the big difference between drivers and irons, one is the setup, but two is that conceptually with an iron, we want to be hitting down on the golf ball. We want to be hitting this way so that we actually take a divot, whereas with a wood, we're obviously trying to hit up on it. So what are the setup differences between irons and drivers? So first and foremost, with an iron, with our setup, we want to have our setup with our hips, with our stance about hip width apart, right? The second thing we want to do is ball position. We want to have our ball position underneath our lead ear, which you can see is a little bit more back compared to the driver that was underneath our lead armpit or inside of our lead heel. So now that we have our stance that's hip width apart, our ball position is underneath our lead ear. The second thing is we don't want to have a whole bunch of tilt away. We want to feel fairly straight up and down, and we also want to have about 55% of our pressure or weight in our lead footed setup. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it so that as we take the club back after we have our good setup, we're trying to hit down on the golf ball so that we're hitting the ball and then the tee. We do not, absolutely do not want to be hitting up on an iron. We want to be hitting down on an iron and then taking a divot. And when I bring players out to do on-course playing lessons here at Tartan Fields, and they come to Columbus and they fly in and we come out and we do a playing lesson, the thing that I notice time and time again is that they're not taking divots. They're not hitting ball first. And that is the one thing that is so, so important to hitting crisp irons and hitting the right distance. Because listen, you and I both know that if you hit like 2 inches behind the golf ball, you want to quit. So what I've done here is I've set up this tee that's basically one club head length in front, and what you're trying to do is you're just going to set up to the ball with your good setup. And just to kind of recap, you got your stance hip width apart, you got ball underneath your lead ear, your body is up more up and down, you have pressure into your lead side, and all you're trying to do is hit the tee and hit the ball, because that's going to ensure that now you have solid contact. Now, on top of that, we now want to go back into the golf room, back into the lab, and let me show you some of the intricacies, some of the real differences between irons and drivers, and really kind of go a little bit deep, not too technical because I don't want to confuse you, but some of the things that you can really help you between separating your irons and drivers so that now you're hitting great irons and great drivers when you're playing golf. So Ben Hogan, who many would consider to have the greatest golf swing of all time, wrote a super famous book called The 5 Fundamentals of Golf, right? And in the book he talks about, which you'll see right here, you'll see how he talks about with drivers having his stance a little bit more closed, meaning as a right-handed golfer he's aiming to the right, and for wedges and shorter irons he was aiming a little bit more left. Now Ben Hogan was way before his time, because what he essentially was doing was this super fancy complex thing, basically altering what many would call the D plane, right? Now this is a plane board, and I want to explain to you why you feel like, hey, I hit my drivers good, but I hit my irons bad. Or maybe you go, I hit my irons good, but my driver's bad. Because while the swings are very similar, there are some very small differences as to what's happening, and it all revolves around the angle of attack. Now the angle of attack is the angle in which the club is going into the ball. So if it's going down, it's negative. If it's going up, it's positive. Now, with drivers, we want to be hitting up on the ball, right? So if I was sitting here and I was hitting a ball straight out there, what you can see from this down the line view is that as I'm coming down, this little rod, it's not signifying necessarily the direction of the face, it's signifying the direction of the club path. You can see that when the rod is going down, the club path is actually going out to the right, and when it's swinging up, the club path is actually going to the left. Now we know that with a driver, we want to be having the ball more in the front of our stance so that we can hit up on the golf ball. But you can see that when I'm hitting up on a driver, this club path is actually going more to the left. So what Ben Hogan did before his time, he actually shifted the plane by closing his stance a little bit so that in an effort of him trying to hit up on the ball, he would feel a little bit more shallow or swinging a little bit more out to the right so that he can have the same curvature or the same stock shot as he has with an iron. But it's different with an iron because an iron you're hitting down. So because with an iron we want to be hitting down, you can see how the rod is going down. That's going to make it so that the more I hit down, the more the path goes to the right. So as I'm hitting down with an iron, right, I could make an argument of I could be more shallow with a driver than I am with an iron, because with an iron I hit down, and the more I hit down, the more the path goes to the right, and the more I hit up, the more the path goes to the left. So that's why sometimes you're like, hey, I can hit a pretty good iron, but my driver, I feel like I can't put it anywhere on the planet. And it all revolves around the attack angle, which is that descent down to the ground. So the long and short is that when you're hitting an iron, do what you do. And if you hit a driver, you might need to feel a little bit more to the right, like a little bit more shallow from the inside. And you could also, if you really want, which I don't necessarily advocate, but you could take a little bit of Ben Hogan and try to feel like our body stayed square, but maybe I kind of dropped this foot back a little bit to give it so that I could hit a little bit more up and a little bit more out to the right. But that's the big difference, and that's why you're struggling with your irons relative to your driver or vice versa. All right, so we know that we need this club coming from the inside and hitting up on it. Now, I want to give you a way so that when you're practicing, you can actually do it. Rather than just like thinking it or feeling it, I want to force the feeling so that you can actually feel what is real. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a stick. This is just an alignment stick. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it in the ground about 2 feet above the ground. And I'm going to get in my setup so that my club shaft is 4 fingers from the tip of that noodle, and then I'm going to take a step in a straight line. Now what you can see is that when I'm doing that, if I were to come over the top, this would be hitting the noodle, which would give me the feedback that I'm doing it wrong. As long as I come underneath the noodle, my TrackMan is going to ensure that my club path is positive and going out to the right. Now, that ensures that the club path is from the inside, but what about hitting up on it? That's where now I'm going to take a box of balls and I'm going to put a box of balls 2 club head lengths in front of it. So now, not only am I hitting it from the inside, but I'm also hitting up on it so that I can maximize the distance and reduce the spin. And if I can miss these 2 objects, Now I'm ensuring that I'm doing everything I can to hit better drivers. So all I have to do is now miss them. Okay, so let's get into some of the finer details between drivers and irons. Now, we're gonna use Sportsbox AI. Now, Sportsbox AI is incredible. Here at the Golf Room, we can see your swing in basically every single angle that there is, so that there is no guessing, which is the nice part, because the stuff I'm telling you is backed by science. It's not just my opinion. It's like, this is what players actually do. So let's first dive into the driver swing, and let's look. And there's two important numbers that I want to share with you today. The first is pelvic sway. So the purple line that you're going to see right here, the purple line is the top 100 players on tour. The green is mine. Now, we're all human beings. No one is perfect, nor am I. But you can see that as the tour player, when you look at these numbers, like this is the top of the backswing, the downswing at chest high, and the impact. What you can see is that their pelvis in their downswing, right, at the top it's at about -1, which means that at the top they're like a little bit behind the golf ball, but then their pelvis is moving forward 4 inches, 5 inches as they're coming down into the shot, right? Now what that does is we're gonna see that's gonna create more tilt in your upper body coming down, right? So if we take that and then we combine that with what's called chest sway, you can see that at chest sway at impact, they're actually -1 degrees or -1 inch behind. So if you think about the center of your sternum, their hips at impact are 5 inches forward and their chest is 1 inch back. So that would allow me to hit more up on the golf ball and make the path a little bit shallower. But what about the iron swing? Let's go into the iron swing and let's see what those are relative to the driver, right? So if we pull up the iron swing and we look at the numbers and we look at pelvic sway to kind of compare the two, what you're going to see is that the pelvic sway is also forward, right? So with an iron, as they take it up to the top, their pelvis is still moving like 4 to 5 inches forward, right, towards the target. Then, as we look at the chest, though, what we'll see is the chest is a little bit different than with the driver. You can see with the chest that the impact with the center of your sternum is actually 1 inch forward. So with a driver, right, our chest was 1 inch back, but our pelvis was forward. With an iron, our hips are 4 inches forward or 5 inches forward, just like the driver, but yet our chest is a little bit more on top, which is what we were talking about at the beginning of the video, where a driver was set up, we might have a little bit more side tilt this way, kind of away from the target, and then an iron might feel a little bit more stacked. So really, it's just if we could get that established at setup, then we don't have to really think about anything, but it's good to know, like, what is the body actually doing? But one question, you're like, okay, cool, Kyle, like, now I know how to hit it from the inside, how to hit it up on it and hit it straight and hit stock shots, but what about hitting it far? That's what I want to tackle right now.